So this is the next photo in our series of behind the scenes videos. I picked this one out today because it turned out completely opposite from what I had originally intended when I took the shot. So if you want to see what went into making a shot like this, stick around. So very often I'll go into a situation trying to get a photograph with something very specific in mind. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out, but every once in a while I'm left over with something that is completely different than what I intended. So this shot here, I'll give you another look, is pretty recognizable. It ended up being a silhouette of the partner statue in Magic Kingdom with the castle in the background. I went out to try to get this shot knowing the framing that I wanted. I had that in mind already. I used my Canon 5D Mark IV and I used the Sigma 35mm 1.4 lens. I went with that focal length to try to capture a different perspective. I wanted to get something where the partner statue and the castle behind it were kind of similar in size in the frame. I wanted to kind of show them both together that way. So I went with the 35mm framing. But when I got to this particular situation on this day, it was raining, it was overcast, there were a lot of people around all over the place, and at this point in the day, it was late afternoon, it was like 5 o'clock. The sun was kind of starting to come out behind the clouds a little bit. It made the sky very, very bright in contrast to the shadows on the ground, but everything still had a nice soft lighting. So when I shot this, I realized I was going to have a very bright spot and a very dark spot. So I tried shooting an HDR, bracketing my exposures, and the end result I didn't really like. I'll show you kind of what that would have looked like. But let's go into Lightroom now. I'll show you what I started out with, what I didn't want to use, and what I ended up with. And I'll show you the edits that I used in Lightroom. So let's go in there now. So this is my original shot, and it's actually at the dark end of an HDR bracket that I did. The HDR, had I gone along with it, would have looked something like this. It looks kind of cool. The colors are nice. It just a little bit flat. It wasn't really what I was going for. Plus, if you can see down here in the bottom area here, you have a lot of guests milling around. It didn't really look that great. I tried to get as low as I could to kind of minimize the amount of people that you saw in the shot, but you still have them behind there also. So I didn't really love the shot, and it actually showed up a lot of the raindrops that were coming down in the scene because everything is really backlit. And like I said, the lighting is still kind of flat. I really just didn't love it. I was actually ready to scrap this image entirely, but I liked the way that it was framed. I kind of liked what I was going for here originally. So what I ended up doing is, rather than trying to drag down my highlights and bring up my shadows and even the image out exposure-wise, I went in a completely opposite direction. Basically, I cranked my highlights all the way up. I cranked my shadows all the way down. I increased my contrast to as high as it could be. And that was my starting point for trying to create a pretty nice silhouette here. Now, since I shot this wide open at 1.4, there's a lot of vignette around the edge. And in the silhouette situation here, I want to brighten up my skies. So just an easy way to fix that is to click on Enable Profile Corrections. And that kind of takes away that vignette and brightens up the corners a little bit. I have a little bit of leaning issue where my perspective is from down low looking up, so everything is kind of leaning backwards a little bit. So if I bring my perspective on the vertical down a little bit, it kind of straightens those out up a little bit. And we're going to crop these edges off later at the end. So now I can tweak my actual exposure and my highlights and everything. So I want to bring my exposure down just a little bit. It's a little bit too bright in the middle there, which is fine there. Bump my whites up a little bit without blowing them out, and bring my blacks down just a little bit. So that's it. I'm ready to crop this image. I don't like how the partner statue is kind of almost right in the middle. So I'll use my crop tool. I have to get rid of this perspective adjustment a little bit, and I'll kind of move Walt and Mickey over to the left. Frame it a little bit differently. I don't want to cut off the top of the castle, and I want to leave some room in front of Walt and Mickey, the direction that they're looking in. Leave a little bit of open sky over there. So that's it. That's all the editing that it took to get from this to this finished product. All from a photograph that I was going to delete anyway. So sometimes it's a good idea to hold on to something. Don't get rid of it right away. Maybe come back to it later when you have a different mindset and you can put a fresh perspective on it. And that's it. So with that shot, with that framing in mind, I knew I wanted to go back and try to shoot this scene again on a different kind of a day to get the similar framing. I like the framing. but I wanted to get it really on a nicer day. So here's a shot I got just a few months later when I went back, and it was a really nice, beautiful blue sky, puffy white clouds kind of a day. You know, there are so many different ways to shoot the partner statue. So try different focal lengths, try different lenses, try different apertures, different times of day, different kinds of weather. There's so many different ways to shoot this thing. So I hope you liked that video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. If you like these kinds of videos, definitely subscribe to the channel and click on that little notification bell. This way you get notified every time we post a video. I'll leave you with a few more images of the partner statue, one of my favorite subjects to shoot anywhere in the world. Thanks for watching.